Everybody, this is John with the Caricature Entertainment. I got my best bud Larry on the tech, answering
Hey,
questions and comments as we come. For all those of you out there, this is now the Caricature Entertainment's tutorial number 7, critiquing artwork using some classic techniques. As always, please feel free to leave any questions, comments, or just some general hellos in the chat, in the comments, text, or even email. We're going to jump right in today talking about style. We're going to use a volunteer drawing by me. So we're going to be looking at different ways we can take this drawing, look at that, and make it even better or different or fun using the Magnificent 7. So style just being one of them. 7, we can always look at how to make it cute, fun, or funny. Style, we can work on composition. We can work on perspective, line work, or even color. So this being the first mention of style, I wanted to just kind of go over character design. And we're going to be looking at the work today of one of my favorite cartoons, and that is the work of Genndy Tartakovsky's Dexter's Laboratory. Let me show you some of his work. All right, for those of you not familiar with Dexter's Laboratory, my laboratory, uh, this was a animated series that ran from 1996 to 2003. Genndy was a animator inspired by the works of the UPA, the United Production of America, and some early Hanna-Barbera work. One of the aspects that I love most about Dexter's Laboratory was the pop art, simple, minimal detail. And so in the character design, like the character sheets that you see here that I'll be showing, one of the things when you're looking at character design you want to do is you want to keep it simplified, you want it to have personality, and you want the characters to be memorable. So on the aspects of creating characters, you also want them being very easy to draw. So when you look at Dexter here, he's very small. He's kind of blocky, even maybe more rectangular, sharp angles. But even if I look at a repetition of his character design, you can see that it's been drawn consistently with those parameters. And that's one of the things about drawing characters, especially those in cartoon, is you can exaggerate the anatomy. You can create a variety of different shapes, but that those shapes will contrast each other. So when you look at his sister Dee Dee, she's tall, she's very thin, but there's a lot of round shapes to her. So a great contrast to the design of Dexter. Looking at these as the inspiration, when you're doing character design, there's usually 3 design mindsets that you might go through: cartoon, exaggerated anatomy, rounded shapes and contrast. You might look at something more hyper-stylized, like comic books and anime, something that has a lot of detail in the hair and the eyes and the expression. Sometimes I might even say it's even over-rendered, but has this very genuine aesthetic appeal. And then lastly, for those of you in the 3D mindset, computer graphics, you take all of those and just step them up using the tools available on your computer. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the inspiration here from Dexter's laboratory and apply it to my drawing. So here's an example of a sketch I did for a good friend from Facebook. And when I look at this, I feel like I've attached a lot of different parts, the cartoon and the hyper-stylized. Um, when I look at my drawings, I'm seeing things like the rounded shapes contrasting against the other rounded shapes that are in this picture that give it that sense of cartoon. There is some exaggerated anatomy with the rubber hose or just long oblong shapes of limbs. I also do like to do a lot of maybe of my comic book experience, some over rendering. So you can see here with the beard, um, the amount of detail I put into his uniform. But the thing I want to do, if I had a chance to do this again, is there a way I could have removed some of that hyper stylization and get this into its simplest form? And so to do that, I'm probably going to use a technique called silhouettes. Silhouettes. So the technique of silhouettes is, again, one of those popular methods used in the animation industry. So if I keep it in its simplest form, I'm using my two-dimensional shapes, circles and squares. Now I know that I can create the illusion that these are also three-dimensional shapes. And like in last week's instructional, I can even have them a little bit overlapping. Now I know this even in this flat form, but if I were to use it as a silhouette, where I take away all the three-dimensional aspects, do you still know that that is a circle, a square? Do you still know that that could be a sphere or a cube? The mindset here is that because of the rounded that I see in the silhouette, my brain is automatically going to assume it's a circle because I see these hard, I could make it a little startle, these hard lines and angles. My brain wants to assume that it is some form of cube, maybe a rectangular prism, maybe two triangular prisms put together. But because of the straight lines, the assumption is that that is still a shape that I recognize. Now I could take that same mindset and take it to the human face. Is that a light bulb? Is that a skull? Is that an ice cream cone? Or is that a human face? So when I take away all of the features, I still can assume that as I put in more of those details, my understanding and knowledge of shapes is going to still allow me to assume that I know that this is going to be, in fact, a person. So silhouettes in design, this is a simpler way of seeing the human form. Oops. There we go. And so if I start to move that human form, because I can still see the shapes, even if I add the details, my drawing still reads because I have clear shapes, circles, straight lines. I have consistent proportions, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Oh, you might get that joke later. Head, shoulders, elbows, knees, toes, hips. So I have consistent proportions, which also, because I had my stick figure standing straight here, even if I bend and move the character, I know that there's functional anatomy because this is where my knee always bends. This is where my ponytail always taps into my skull. When I'm running, my fists have a tendency to bend in, that this is a point of contact for the foot, but that this foot is about to arch up because it's going to hit contact. So my silhouettes have clear shape, consistent proportions, and functional anatomy. So let's go back and look at Dexter for a moment. When we're designing our characters or drawing our caricatures, these are some of the things that we can look at. Does Dee Dee have a clear shape? So when I look at Dee Dee's head, is her head a goblet? Is it a half circle? Maybe a bowl? And then connected to her hair, are those teardrops? Are those balloons? But functionally, even if I didn't have all the details in the entirety of the picture, because I see feet, hands, neck, ears, I'm now in the assumption, because of the clear shape, consistent proportions, and functional anatomy, I can say that that must be a girl. Now, moving back, let's look at Dexter. So looking at model sheets, character sheets, or even these like pose sheets, this is a great way to study the possibility of caricature. Looking at some of the what's called a turnaround. So that's this section up here. Oops, there we go. Where you just see Dexter keeping that consistent proportions all the way across, allows me then to play around, as you see in all these other ones. There's so many great ones in this model sheet of the different expressions. But I know that it's going to continually be Dexter because the fact that I see the curve to the curly hair, the oblong yet curve against straight of his face, and then his small blocky body and arms. The exaggeration, like in this pose here at the bottom, you can see arms are just extending, growing, in fact, compared to the model sheet. But in fact, it still works because of the functional aspects of anatomy. We know that the arm's going to come out from the shoulder, and as long as it connects into a hand, that must be the arm. So now that I have a little working knowledge, how do I take silhouettes and make my drawing different? Let's take a look. So here again is the drawing I created for a Facebook friend. A fantastic use of the caricature form, a theme, in fact. If I remember correctly, I did this because he was one of those folks who jumped on the AI caricature trend. And I said, give me a chance to draw you. And this is what I created. But now looking at silhouettes, how can I take the same drawing and then create something that's more stylized using silhouettes? All right. Again, I'm trying to keep it simplified. I want it to still have the personality, making it memorable, but it has to be easy to draw consistently. So in my mind, the one thing I'm looking at is I'm going to draw him and break down the shapes. So just like with Dexter, I'm going to start with a big curve contrasting a straight line. So I've got kind of like a, almost could have been, if I put a handle here, it's almost like a coffee mug, right? Is that what I'm seeing with a silhouette? Yeah, you might say that. Coffee mug. Now, just give you a little feedback or background on this guy. He used to be the middle linebacker for our high school football team. So he's a big dude. Because he's a big dude, I want to choose big shapes. So because I have this curve here, let me try, and I'm going to play it off now the opposite. So now it looks like I have a coffee mug sitting on a beanbag. I'm sure he doesn't want to know I call him a beanbag. Now, when I look at this drawing here, you can see that this leg is projecting forward. That's a very stylized comic book move, but it doesn't make for a great silhouette because if I block that in, I won't see that functional anatomy that I need to see. So what I'll do instead is keep consistent with the straight leg here. And I'm going to project a leg out here. Now, again, it's opposite to what I'd have in my original drawing. Well, because I'm working in the realm of silhouette, this reads better than this would in silhouette form. A straight leg, bent leg. So I look at the arms that I created. I had one projecting up and one projecting down. I think that'll still read here, but I'm going to push out and push up. Pretty much the same. Because he was the linebacker, I'm going to give him some big anatomy. All right. Now, he's also wearing a baseball cap. If I put a baseball cap just straight, it might work, but kind of in the mode of Dexter and his hair, I'm going to have that hat just lifting up a little bit. And because he's a mailman, got to have the mailman bag. Here in the picture, I had it attached to his body, more consistent with the highly stylized, but in cartoon land, that's what we'll do. So I have a clear shape. I have coffee mug, bean bag, two stumps of lumber, and we've got, we'll call that some safety orange cones, popsicles, or some kind of circle on top, and then a upside down pot on the top of his head. Or is this in fact a person? So I can now remove, and let's draw him again, but this time using the Hyper-Style, or not the Hyper-Style, the simple pop art style made popular with the Dexter's Lab. So I'm going to render his face. He did have a beard, so I'm just going to give him a couple bits of hair here. And there's his ear. I'm going to have his hat. I'm going to give him a large size nose. He's Pacific Islander, and I don't think that's too far from the truth. This is eyebrows. Do want to give him a nice big smile. So simplest form, smile, give him some teeth maybe. simplest form. Give him a couple lines. Simplest form based on my silhouette. There's the beard. Nice. Arms. Well, let's give him his shirt. He's a big guy. Who's wearing shorts? And I'm actually going to bend that line a little bit because I do want the appearance of him running. Some socks. Functional anatomy. Here's his first arm. Here's his second arm. Give him his shorts. And then the bag. Okay. Give him some eyeballs. Because he's a post office person, at least give him a badge. I have to resist the temptation to put in a bunch of details here. I'm sure he has the belt version of shorts. It's uniform. All right. And there it is. Based on my silhouette, again, I've got coffee mug, bean bag, 2 logs, some safety cones, an upside down pot, but it reads along with the bag. Transfer that knowledge into functional anatomy, keep those proportions consistent. I used a lot of rounded shapes and played around some exaggerated anatomy. Here's the before. Hyper-stylized, has aspects of exaggeration. Cartoon, minimal, easy to draw consistently. Now I might redraw this one and then show it in a later video, but that's it. Character design and style, one of the Magnificent Seven. This is a retail sketch. Probably put a lot of effort into it, but I could just as easily have drawn that and sell that just as well. And more than likely, if I can draw this, both of them, maybe I could sell both of them. It's the highly stylized, I call it a fusion of cartoon and comic books that I love. But if I stuck to my guns and what I want to do for my animation experience, this character design fits really well. Well, thanks for joining me, guys. My name's John. That was drawing series number 7. If you do have any drawings that you would love for us to take a look at and just see it a different way, we'd love to have that opportunity to participate. We do these tutorials every Wednesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. My name's John. I got Larry. Thanks for our guests for dropping in. We appreciate good time seeing you. We'll see you again tomorrow. Keep it simple, personal, memorable.